Sacred Harmony, where soulful conversations meet real life reinvention. Today, we are joined by Omar and Jessie, the voices behind A Soul's Quest, a podcast born from collapse and built on consciousness. After shedding the shoulds of their old lives, they began asking bold questions about identity, light, and what it really means to move through life's transition with grace. If you have ever felt like life broke down just to break you open, this episode is your mirror. Welcome to the show. It's an honor to have you guys.
Thank you so much for having us. We're excited about being here.
And absolutely. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share with you.
hmm So, Omar and Jesse, how did your personal transition shape the core philosophy behind a soul's quest?
Sure. On my personal life, I've always been intrigued by mythology, psychology, philosophy. And at a young age, just fresh out of college, I struggled with identity, finding who I was, finding the things that made me who I was and what it is that I wanted to do with my life. And that kind of led me on the quest to investigate other religions, other points of views, other things like that. And as I fast forward through life and the dissolution of my midlife came through, I came to the realization that life is a journey, it's a quest. And the quest is to go back to the singularity of our source, who we are really, right? I always quote the presentations that we do a Carl Sagan's quote that he goes, "We are a way for the universe to know itself." And that's a deep, deep philosophical existential question. If we are a way for the universe to know itself, then what is the essence of who I am and what is my purpose here? And that was the catalyst for Soul's Quest, breaking down who I was, the social conditioning, the career, even the perception of who I was into creating this. So Jesse and I, 4 years ago, started a podcast to explore those things within us, which consequently is leading us now to be able to set a foundation to share.
I think what happened is when Omar started this whole concept of the Soul's Quest podcast, the ASQ podcast, I was still very much with a veil on my face. I was still kind of living in what I like to refer to as the matrix, and just kind of going through the motions of, work, corporate life, trying to be a good daughter, a good mother, a good wife, a good employee, working for other people. And as time has progressed and watching Omar's transformational growth, um, layers have been peeled back for me. And most recently, I have done this huge transformation in my life. I've did an exodus from corporate life and committed solely to our business here and what we're doing and what we're sharing with people. And just being a support system to Omar while going through the process of transformation. And it's been an interesting journey so far, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. That is amazing. And what part of letting go was the hardest? And what did it reveal about your inner truth?
Yeah, personally, it's the hardest realization is that up to a certain point in life, we live in a certain condition, right? I use the phrase we are pitched into existence. We are pitched into a culture, we are pitched into a family, we are pitched into a certain sets of belief, which is none of our choosing. And from that point, that breaking down of that realization, and then beginning to search for what it means to be me, for what it means to be my contribution in the here and now. What's that breaking point that I needed as an individual? And as painful as it was, and as challenging as it was something that it was necessary. It was the explosion that needed to happen in my life in order to begin the search for really what is my essence and what would be my point of expression in the here and now.
I think that I echo Omar's words. The biggest part for me of letting go is, especially since I'm going through a really serious transformation, like currently, is the idea of shedding the person that I was and becoming a new version, a new creating this whole new identity of and living authentically. And that's hard because my identity has been wrapped in working for other people, being a good mom and being the server and the provider and the nurturer in that environment. And now it's shedding all of these beliefs of who I thought I was and becoming this new individual who lives from her essence, who lives from that authentic place.
Hmm. And sometimes what feels like unraveling is really sacred reassembly, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. It's hard. It's a hard reality. It's a harsh reality too when um you're going through something and what you thought was supposed to be is not. But that's really what's supposed to be, right?
Mhm.
What we're shedding.
Yeah. And one of the things about what we do is that these stories of, I think of Kali, for instance, coming in and destroying everything for something fresh to come out. I think of mythology and that idea of breaking apart, the tearing down. That's those mythological stories and those mythological perspectives are kind of like a roadmap to understand that these things need to happen. We typically think of mythology in a sense of just grandiose storytelling, but in reality is the roadmap that we must, with us, if we choose to, need to follow in order to be able to live the life that we are meant to live. So all this breaking down, it's necessary in order for something new. It is a natural process of life. Life and death are two sides of the same coin. A star dies, but then the star is born and something else comes around it, and we are a reflection of that, whether we like to admit it or not. And our goal, our objective, is to let people know that that breakdown is okay, because from there something new will come.
Hmm. Absolutely. And you speak about the light source and our point of expression. How do you define that light in real world, grounded terms?
Mhm. So this is the analogy that I like to use, right? The center of a universe, or the center of our solar system, is the sun, right? Nothing operates in our world without the sun. The moment that that exists or ceases to exist, everything else ceases to exist. So it radiates constantly, without discrimination, willingly. So that essence is our essence as well. We have to be able to recognize that we are a small micro reflection of that, and that energy of giving, of nurturing, and understanding that that energy also has a duality. It has a duality of creation, but it also has the duality of destruction. And and balancing those polarities is what helps us understand to be creator in the here and now, in this time and place. So from a practical point of view, it's looking at the universe, it's looking at nature as a reflection of us, and what happens out there, it's also what happens within. So we need to be able to, and this is simple observation. It's simple um, scientific method of watching what's happening outside, going inside, taking a look at what's happening inside of us, and then always knowing something new comes about, something fresh comes about, and it's all part of the process. So it is a practical thing. It is very scientific. It is thought driven, and our minds directed, and our minds and our awareness, our consciousness of understanding these things. It's truly the gateway to being a co-creator in the here and now.
Yeah, I love that. Hmm? And how can someone recognize when they're disconnected from that source?
I think because I'm really fresh in this whole process of transforming and growing into what Omar just described, and radiating that essence within. I think what happens is it's a lot of times people tend to ignore the voice that is talking to you, that little gentle whisper, and it truly does come in a whisper. I think what happens is we just ignore it, but there are signs that happen to you. You feel a disappointment, you question an experience or an interaction with somebody, and you kind of brush it aside. And that brushing aside is that um, denial, or that denying of what is actually trying to be illuminated for you. And once you come to a point, because it's not an easy thing to do. It's not something that just, I think people are going to go through it several times, and then finally something's going to happen. It's going to be like a a brick wall that you hit, that's going to force you to acknowledge it, or you're just going to keep pushing it to the side. Pushing it to the side is eventually it's going to catch up to you, right? Now, this isn't for everybody. Not everybody experiences this. A lot of people are living very happy lives, and they're going through life normally and producing and efficient. But the people that we're speaking to are those individuals who have this awareness of, who am I? What am I doing? I don't feel like I belong here anymore. And those are all those subtle whispers that people don't necessarily talk about. It's not something that we just go out there and go, hey, I'm trying to figure out who I am. So I think it's a real, it's a concerted awareness that somebody has to listen to themselves and then ask those really difficult questions.
And it's interesting that she says that, because in our modern society, even with all the technological advancements, even with the fact that we live longer lives than ever before, we struggle with with mental health, and that idea of, is this it?
Mhm.
Right? Our soul, which is a combination of our emotions, a combination of our thought process, but also a combination of our impulses, those natural impulses that we have within us. Those are gauges. They're like the compass that tells us whether we were on track or off track.
Mhm.
And that deep despair that we feel, that deep sense of loss that we feel in this modern age, it's doesn't require, in my perspective, in my opinion, an easy medical prescription. What it requires is that deep exploration of meaning
Mm.
in the here and now. We all know that there's something wrong with our culture. We all know that there's something missing, and we can't avoid that, and we can't negate that. That's what Joseph Campbell calls the call to the adventure. This is the call to the adventure. This is your call to go out questing for that deep yearning, to look for those answers. And consequently, when you look for those answers within you, it will positively affect everything around you.
Mhm.
You know, so we are in a society in which we're looking for a quick prescription. Give me the pill, give me the answer, give me the 5 steps, and this will solve everything. Any person that has made an impact in our world, you name Buddha, Muhammad, Jesus, Moses, name a figure that has endured and transformed society, they have gone through many trials. They've confronted these emotions that we're talking about, right? Now it is our time to be able to do that. And what we do is that we're able to provide the guidance, people to understand that it is okay to feel that. It means that you are calling for something more. We are being called for something greater or different than what we're experiencing right now.
Mm-hmm. And it's such a radical act to ask not what I should do, but what am I here to express?
Precisely.
Yes.
Mhm. And if you think about what you just said, right, what am I here to express? Name something in nature that doesn't contribute in its unique way. Any plant, any animal, everything in nature contributes in its own way, in its own unique way. And we're not different than that.
Mhm.
You know, we're so separate from that idea of nature, right? our rational mind has taken us away from the reality that we are part of Earth. We are part of the universe. We're a part of it. We're not separate from it,
Mhm.
but we have come to that conclusion that we are. But when we start searching and we start looking at these deep, deep yearnings, is it's understanding that in our day, in our time, we have to find what is our contribution,
Mhm.
right? What is that thing that I'm here to do in this time and place? We can't compare ourselves to people in the past, and we can't compare to other people. Each single one of us has to find that way in which to contribute. It is fearful, it is lonely, it's challenging, but it's doable. And this is the things that Jesse and I have been working on.
Yeah, and just to add to that, it's when he was saying that, it just made me think all this time for all of the existence that I've had on this planet, everything that I have done has been societal expectations, right? And not a unique expression of who I actually am. And that's what we do, which is why I referred to the matrix earlier, is we're pitched into this life and we have mom and dad or our caregivers telling us, or guiding us on what we should do. And we followed these roadmaps that are not necessarily our authentic paths, right? Which is why I was alluding to that. I'm going through that just because I wanted to resist that aspect of myself because it's scary. It's an expression of who I truly am, and who's going to listen to me? Who's going to align with what I'm saying? Am I going to be weird? Am I going to be that individual that doesn't that sounds woo woo and philosophical? And I think that becomes so overwhelming that that you have to do it. You know that you're at a pivotal place where you have to answer that call to the adventure, is what Omar mentioned earlier. And so I just wanted to say that because I think a lot of this is like we have to be able to step back and have this perspective on our life of what am I here to do? What is my purpose? Who am I? We're not just mothers, daughters, sisters, family members, workers. We are so much more than that. Like Omar said, we contribute in our own unique ways.
Mm-hmm. 100%. And life moves in cycles.
Mhm.
Why do you think transition feels so destabilizing, even when we intellectually know they're natural?
Mhm. Well, it's something that we're not, again, like I mentioned earlier, our modern society separates us from nature, right? Nature has its cycles. We understood this. We are able to measure vast distances in space because we understand those cycles. But there's very little information out there about the cycles of our life. I mean, just thinking about it, the only person that I've read that is and that is and it's not even well known is someone like Eric Erickson, who talks about the psychological transitions that we go through life and the crises that happen when we're transitioning from one stage of life to another. And if we don't understand those transitions, that's when conflict comes in. That's when friction comes in. That's when those midlife crises come in because or we have done a poor job as human beings in our modern times to be able to understand that transitions. Our ancestors, what people call primitive cultures, they had rites of passages whenever someone transitioned from one stage to the other, right? They changed the way that they dressed. Young people were taken to trials. We don't have that anymore. Religions no longer provide that for us. And unfortunately, we have to do that ourselves. And one of our objectives is to be able to understand and share with people that life is a cycles. You talk about the yugas in Hinduism. You talk about the birth and rebirth in a lot of other cultures because these things are universal in nature. They're not isolated, but we need to do a much better job as a collective and as individuals primarily. We focus on the individuals because as an individual, I could only affect a certain number of people, right? So we have to understand that these transitions in life and the frictions that we feel are natural processes. They're natural processes that are observable outside in the big picture, in the macro, in the universal way, but we have to do a better job at understanding it with us.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Right. And what's one powerful tool you have used to stay centered during major shifts?
So for me, very practically speaking, I do. I have a moment in the mornings, usually for me, and it can be at any point during the day as well, where I take time to be alone with myself. I guess you could call it meditation. I'm not necessarily meditating for per se. I'm not looking for anything. I'm just allowing, um, and allowing the thoughts to go through me, and then writing down the questions that I have, the things that I'm feeling, what's happened in those few moments that I've taken for myself, and it's allowed me to sort of clear out the noise. Um, and giving myself the grace that I need to be able to go through the day and in each day to embrace and be and show gratitude for the things that are happening for me and the decisions that I'm going to make that are coupled with my transformation, that are keeping me on the path towards that quote unquote enlightenment and becoming the person that I'm supposed to be. So that's a very practical tool that I use. I also do a lot of journal. I mean, I journal a lot. I write a lot of things down. I use my phone to journal thoughts down, and just revisit those things at different moments of the day. I will often take moments to just do some deep breathing and grounding exercises. And so they all sound very spiritual, but they're practical tools.
And, to me, this is a very good question, right? Because it is an exercise personally on wanting to know. I think us as humans, we always have the desire to wanting to know more. So it comes natural to me to want to learn new perspectives, to explore new perspectives, to explore new points of views, to be open to what other people have experienced, to be open to other mythologies, other religions, other perspectives, other scientific points of views, other philosophical points of views. So that inquiring of seeing different ideas and different perspectives has helped me out quite a bit because as an individual, I'm only seeing my own point of view. But if I open up, if I step back, if I see what Machiavelli is trying to say, what Socrates is trying to say, what the Buddha is trying to say, what Lotso is trying to say, I'm able to kind of like get a gauge as to, oh, there's a pattern in here. There's common denominators. So using my mind to be able to make sense of this in conjunction with what Jesse mentioned, the journaling, the reflecting, the
Mhm.
seeing, oh, that person did this kind of like sounds like my life. And what can I learn from that person? What can I learn from that idea?
Mhm.
That's one of the biggest things because our mind is the most powerful tool we humans possess. No one in the animal world has the tool of thinking that we have. So it's a tool that we need to use, and we use proactively and in a way that is productive. So that's one tool that in the work that we want to be able to develop, which is the idea of properly reflecting, properly comparing and contrasting, discriminating between what is the essence of something and what is the facade of it.
Mm-hmm. And that tension between knowing and feeling, it's where growth lives.
Yeah.
Mhm, mhm. Tension is important. Is again we I'm critical of of what we've created because we collectively have created it and accepted it, right? Tension is growth.
Mm.
Nothing in the universe is static because once something's static, it dies. So the tension that we feel, it's not something to be avoided or escaped. It's something to actually to be explored. This is what Carl Jung talked about. You have to face your shadow. You have to face that tension in order to find out the goal that's in there, right? So we have to look into that because the tension is the place of growth. Some people do it physically, some people do it mentally. And again, there is no separation in the spiritual realm between the physical and the mental. They're all one at the same. So that friction is necessary for growth and is necessary for advancement. More importantly, that friction is necessary for evolution, which we are active participants in it.
Mm-hmm. 100%. And for people who feel stuck in a lost phase, what's your advice to begin reconnecting with the soul's quest?
So our advice for people to connect with us is definitely just to visit our website, www.aasoulsquest.com. I also think that I invite people to listen to some of our episodes on our podcast. That's also important. There's a lot of good information there. We're on all social media outlets. We're on Spotify, Instagram, TikTok. We're on all the different social media sites, and we do, or we're in the process of finishing up our membership site, and we invite people to visit our website and go ahead and become members of our website so that they can be connecting with us and reach out to us, and yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things, the final advice that I would give to people really is one of the principles that we've created is called the PEP principle, the PrEP concept, which is perspective, experience, and philosophy, right? So the first thing is to gain a broader perspective of life, right? um Take a step back, look at the universe. There's so much beautiful work done on astronomy and how the universe works and things of that nature, and seeing the reflection of that in our micro world, right? So getting a broader perspective, going to nature, observe it, look at other points of views, so that you can see that there are other ways, right? Because sometimes in our world we feel so lonely because we're going through things internally. So one of the suggestions is to broaden that perspective. And once you begin to gain that broader perspective, is to reflect on your experiences as how do they reflect from the universe, and what are the things that you have learned from it. What is learning? When you ask the question, why did this happen to me? You become in a cycle of doubts, of fear, of like, oh, why does this happen? It's not a productive conversation question. But if you look at or if you look at everything around you, you see perspective, and then you reflect and say, what am I learning from this based on your experiences? And you could become a person that is an active philosopher, meaning that you could create an approach to how you want to live your life. And as challenging as that may be, and as difficult as it may seem, you are going to be rejuvenated and empowered to move forward. We close ourselves into lack of money, lack of resources, but we have to be able to take those challenges as those people that came before us to be able to live the life that we really, really want.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes the most loving thing we can do is not rush someone's becoming.
Correct. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's really important. But for us, it was interesting because Omar has been going through this transformation for several years. In fact, he's been um, an individual who's always been very curious about philosophies and transformation and so on and so forth. And for me, I've been so resistant to it. And now here I am. And it's like Omar's having to be very patient and supportive of my transformation because it's so new for me. So yes, very important not to rush through that process.
Mm-hmm. So, this journey isn't about reaching the mountaintop, it's about learning to dance through the valleys. Thank you, Omar and Jessie, for showing us that the path of soul isn't linear, it's alive. And to everyone listening, your breakdown might just be your breakthrough. Your ending might be the beginning for your soul. And keep walking, keep questioning, and let the light within you